Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I want to welcome anybody that's new here, and thank you to all those that have been following along on this journey. We really do this work together. So, this podcast was born out of being directed by my daughter, 15-year-old daughter, Keira Bradley. She died in a fatal accident, and after that happened, obviously very tragic for our family, but after that happened, she was able to connect to me first through a lot of different signs and just really this massive connection where we're being helped by angels on the other side, and really just asking me to bring this podcast to you to be able to share this information. And that's what we're doing here. And so today on this podcast, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk about signs, and we're going to talk about signs. And so really this podcast is a transmission. It's a frequency. It helps us stay calm and really be the forerunners of this beautiful feel good always energy onto this earth. So all of us are going into this really peaceful energy. I sit in peace and connection, and I'm just here to help transmit this to all of you. So if you're listening and you found me, I don't believe it's by accident. I believe that you are here to hear something that you need to hear, that your soul is bringing you here, because it is a frequency and it calls people in. And today I'm going to be sharing some signs, not just signs, because I share that on all of these podcasts. So if you're looking for signs to help you trust signs and stop doubting, you can listen to many of the podcasts before, because we are all receiving tons of signs all the time, and I share them. But today I'm going to share just some signs of my own. But beyond that, we're going to talk about what it feels like, what it means when you're seeing signs, how we can feed those signs back to others to help really feed the Great Awakening, how we talk about signs, how we educate others, all to help us all see more of the signs and help others feel them too. And so Keira has been saying these words to me: feel, feed, talk, educate. And that's really what I do here on this podcast. I feel it. I help you feel it. I feed it to you. I talk about it, and I educate others through all that. And really, you guys can do that too. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about signs in using that process: feel, feed, talk, educate. So it all starts with feeling. When we talk about feeling, the only way that we see signs is when we are present to see them, feel them. And it could be that goosebump moment, that tear in your eye, that sense that something deeper is happening. These are not coincidences. These are not random things. They're awakenings. They are the first layer of how spirit speaks to us. I received so many signs from the beginning. Right after my daughter Keira died, my entire family, we really started receiving hundreds of signs, mind-blowing stuff. And those signs really helped me through grief. But they were more than just signs showing me that she was still there. They are really, now I understand them as sacred data points, like really these activation points, showing us like how we are really breaking apart this matrix, this separation of illusion. And so we're going to get into the deeper layer of signs, not just how we see them, but why they matter, why we receive them, and really how they are part of this greater energetic awakening, a remembering that we're all doing. That's why I'm doing this podcast. It's happening. It is done. I'll say that over and over. We're just walking towards it. So the greater remembering, the collective awakening, the dissolving of the illusion that we are separate from anything or anyone. It's about presence. It's about timelines and trusting what we feel so we can feed that energy back to the collective. So quickly, I'm just going to share a few signs just from the past week. I recorded a podcast with Josiah's mom. You can listen to that. It's a couple episodes back. I will link it in the show notes. But in that podcast, we referred to dust potentially being a sign, like joking that, people don't think as dust as a sign. And I said, well, yeah, now I'm going to start seeing dust. And of course, on the day that podcast released, I was at a new yoga studio and I saw a book on a bookshelf, and literally the name of the book was The Book of Dust. And then right after that, I got an email and the word dust was in the title. Super simple, but I am aware. I am paying attention. These are like really just cracks in the matrix where I am co-creating. Now I'm seeing a book with the dust. And then another really a little bit more profound of a sign, sometimes we need them to be really obvious. And this one, I had a friend call me, and Natalie, who was on the podcast recently, she called and she shared this story with me, how she was driving in her Forerunner. And I say Forerunner, I point that out because we are Forerunners in this new earth, this collective awakening. If you're listening, you are a forerunner bringing this onto the earth. Forerunners are a sign for me, so that's important to say. She was in a Forerunner and she was driving, and she had the beeping sound come on in her car, and it was like beep beep for her to brake, and she kind of ignored it for a second, and then it did it again, and it's never done it before. So she finally put on her brakes, and within 5 seconds, a deer hopped out in front of her car. So she calls me to tell me this because obviously her is beeping at her ahead of this animal jumping in front of her. And of course, I have experiences like this quite often. It's how I know time is all happening now, because how can it start beeping before the deer runs out in front of her? And I thought it was an amazing sign. And what was even more, because there's always more amazing, is while she's telling me this story, I get a text from someone who sends me a picture of a deer standing in the middle of the road. Okay. So she's telling me this story about her Forerunner and how it beeps at her ahead of time. And then a deer comes out in the road. So she was being told to brake before the animal even came in front of her. And then she shares it with me, who, yes, of course, I experience this all the time. This is what I experience all the time. And just to put another layer on it, somebody, as she's telling me the story, sends me a picture of a deer in the road. So what does this tell us? I mean, this is like when these things started happening to me, it made me start to really question everything. This isn't just I saw a deer. It's like that next level, which these things are really coming for everyone. And before we get into like what this means, I'm going to share a couple more. I took my daughter Lila horseback riding for 2 years before Keira died. We were very into horseback riding. She was at a barn working at that. She was at a barn and she would ride horses, and I would sit there watching her for years. I was up there, and I was actually there the night that Keira died, because we were very involved with this barn. And after Keira died, my daughter stopped going there, not because she didn't want to be there, but because, it was hard. Our life really completely changed. So we went back there, me for one of the first times I've been back there. And that property overlooks where my daughter Keira died. It literally overlooks the property that she died on. I don't think that's a coincidence that I sat there for 2 years in the property. These are this divine web of orchestration. So I'm there, and I immediately, as we are there, and I'm watching my daughter on the horse for the first time. As soon as I get there, a Cessna flies over. Now, Cessnas are a sign from Abby's dad, and so that was a sign. Speaking of Abby, Abby is 9 months pregnant. She went to her ultrasound, and she was getting there, and as she gets out of the car, she looks up and there is a hawk flying overhead. So she really felt like that was a connection to her dad, to Keira. And she looks up, and guess what time it was? It was 2:22. And so she gets back in the car to kind of collect herself. And then she turns on the radio, and it starts playing the song Carry On My Wayward Son, which is a song that was played at her dad's service. All of this is just these beautiful connections. So her dad sends me the plane, the hawk, 2:22, the song comes on, these layering of beautiful signs. And another sign is that Tyler and Abby are with a bunch of their friends this weekend. They are actually staying at an Airbnb that they bid on at the Live Like Keira event, where we did a big fundraiser for foster kids. And when they punched in the address to go to the Airbnb, it was 2 hours and 22 minutes from their house. So that's just really amazing. And I turned on a podcast this week. It has the word grace in the title. And of course, I take a wrong turn 30 seconds later, and I'm looking at a sign that says grace. Another thing that happened is I was talking to my husband, gave me a call, and right as I missed his call, a plate drove by me, a license plate, and it said Pool Revolution on it. And then I get on the phone with my husband, and he's talking about this new business, the idea that he has for swimming pools. And so that's kind of, that's a bunch of signs really quick. I could continue to share more. And if you guys want me to share more signs like that, I mean, I could do full long episodes on that. But I just wanted to give you an idea of some of those things. At first glance, these signs, they might seem random, but they're really not. They are all orchestrated. They're reminding us that something deeper is happening underneath the surface of this life. And we feel all these signs because the signs are not really understood through the mind. They are felt. They can arrive as a knowing, a spark, a goosebump moment. And I want you to know that there's signs are happening. They're connecting all the time. I try to share some that are just easier, like bigger ones, because people maybe need that convincing. But I'm telling you, one thing you could do is just even start paying attention to license plates. I see my birthday on license plates. I see the number 22. I start seeing 143, 144, all kinds, to the point where license plates are constantly communicating with me. It's not just license plates, it's really everything. But the more we move into this, when we receive these signs and what we do with them, the more they increase, increases the energy of them. So that's all about like the feeling of the signs. And I want to talk about the feeding. So we talked about feel, feed, talk, educate. So feeding, when we receive these signs, what do we do with them? We feed them. We feed the frequency. We let that energy rise in us and we let it ripple out to others. That's what I'm doing here. I'm sharing these with you. I started sharing them individually through to other people. And I think because my daughter died, I didn't feel strange about doing it. I really was doing it everywhere. Whether we write about them, we speak about them, whatever we do, if we start feeding them to others, we start sharing these signs, even privately, it really adds light to the collective. So I shared Keira's transmission for the first time on the last podcast. And she says in that podcast, in her transmission, feed what you feel, feed what vacates, feed what you hear. So when we notice these signs and honor these signs, we feed love into the timeline that we want to live in. So really, we are just, when we notice the signs, we're honoring those signs. We're feeding love into the timeline that we want to live in. And signs they're really frequency disruptors. They crack us open to the truth that we are all one. We really are one, and there's a lot more going on here. So when Keira says vacating, 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 this ties in too. They help us vacate the false sense of self that says we're separate, that says that there's only this very materialistic world going on here, that there's nothing happening underneath. There is so much more happening. And so the signs help us come into presence, and they help increase this high vibration. They're not just to comfort us or show us that our kids are, for me, my daughter is helping me on the other side, or your loved ones on the other side. That's where it starts. Okay. That's where it starts. And us, really, these people that are suffering. So when we're looking for signs, even from the universe, if you don't have someone on the other side, that you have another loss, you lost your job, you're going through a divorce, you're feeling uncomfortable in the transition of life, these signs, they do provide comfort to us, a trusting that there's a bigger plan going on here. So beyond that, these signs are for the evolution of us individually and collectively. They really speak the soul language. They go past the logic of the mind that goes, how could I think of that? And then, or be talking about Keira, and then a rainbow appears. Like, that doesn't make sense. But we bypass the mind and we feed to the energetic field. And the more we do this, the more it increases. So all of these signs, their ability to connect on a really mass level, more than maybe I know for me, I experience hundreds and hundreds of things. That's being part of this new matrix that we are gritting into the earth, rooted in love, oneness, divine timing. That's what's happening here. This moving into this feel good always energy. The more signs, the more that we feel them, and we feed them to others, and we talk about these signs, whether that's you having a one-on-one conversation, you sharing this podcast with other people, you having your own podcast, or your own sharing on social media signs. Because when we start sharing our signs, people start seeing their own. And it really, like I said, it feeds what vacates. So when we vacate this part of us that thinks that we are separate, that kind of discounts and goes, this is why, it's raining outside, so there's your rainbow. Or, well, planes do fly over that place a lot. It doesn't matter if they fly over the barn a lot right at that moment. And it's a feeling, okay? It's a feeling. It's what you feel inside. So when you find yourself coming up with a reason why, like, for example, when I was just in Sedona, I saw a sign that said Oracle. Someone pointed it out to me. It was I am often referred to as the Oracle. And then someone said, well, there is a lot of license plates in Sedona that give you, they give you this opportunity to think like Oracle. Like, of course, you're going to see that in Sedona. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Because we are co-creating. So it's not just that I'm in Sedona. It's a sign for me. It has nothing to do with where I'm at. And I'm always saying that. And you're going to have me continue to say it doesn't matter if you'll see it all the time. If I'm seeing horse signs and I drive to the barn and I see a bunch of horses, just because the horses are always there does not mean that they're not a sign. It's like the stopping of the doubting feeds that energy. We also remember that signs, they don't just help me, Becky Bradley, they help you. So the same thing goes for you. When you see signs, they don't just help you, they help everyone. They ripple out. So when you share a sign, you give permission to others to notice their own signs. And this is part of that, we feel the sign, we feed it, then we talk about it. Okay. And then we educate. You feel the presence and the connection of the sign, and then you feed that energy to others. You share it with others, whether it's sharing your own individual signs, like so many people share with me. I think that people feel really comfortable sharing with me because I'm talking about it. But imagine if you started talking about it to others and not worrying if they thought you were crazy, then maybe more people would feed them to you. I get so many signs all the time, which I really do believe that's why I see so many signs. And so then we just start to educate others about these new paradigms that are happening, these new things, this collective, beautiful, feel good, always energy that is coming onto the earth. And I'm going to say again, it's why I share these stories, not to convince you that my signs are real. I don't need you to believe in my signs, to believe in this connection I have. It is a felt experience. All I want to do is help bring other people into this energy. And your soul already knows. And all of the other people that don't see it yet, their souls know too. And when we remember together, it ripples out, which is really amazing and beautiful. And so we talk about it. So we feed that energy back, and we talk. So eventually that feeling and that energy become a voice. We speak it, we share it, we give language to the unseen. Not because we're trying to convince people, but because we are trying to connect. Because when we talk about a sign, again, I'll say, other people start remembering their own, and they start remembering the truth of what is happening inside of them, which is we are all connected. We are all one. And that energy rises, the vibration rises on the earth, and we all start seeing them. And then imagine if we were all talking about signs all the time, just how much connection the universe, the other side, could have with us. So when we see a sign, we trust it. We choose that new timeline. We crack open the illusion of separation. We break apart the matrix that says that we are separate. We're not. How am I constantly co-creating if I am separated from the squirrel that's coming up to me right at the perfect moment? When a squirrel passes in front of my car, I know that that is a sign. It's specifically for me, squirrels are a sign from my friend Michelle's dad. So each person has a sign, either people who are on earth or who are on the other side. And so I'm constantly receiving signs. I don't go, oh, well, there's always squirrels. No, because it really is a connection. And I've seen too many like out of this world signs that there is no explanation, that I don't discount the small ones. Okay. So we're not in control of any of this. We don't have anything we need to figure out. We're totally deeply held by the other side. They are helping. They've told us that. I shared that transmission. We have all of these angels helping. And the signs are just one way that we are guided into this remembrance of who we are. And that remembrance is medicine. And so it's really important to feel the signs, to feed that energy to others, however that looks, by sharing it, by sharing this podcast with somebody, and then talk about it. So we feel, we feed, we talk. Talk about it with somebody that you wouldn't normally talk about it. Can you have your ego step aside and not worry if people think you're crazy? And then so we feel, we feed, we talk, and then we educate. So I'm doing that now. It doesn't mean that you have to, but I can do that now for you. We educate. And I'm not talking about from textbooks, but like from a soul level experience. When we start to notice the patterns, when we realize that these signs aren't from isolated moments, but like threads of a greater tapestry, like a beautiful web. That's when we teach, whether we mean to or not. You don't have to be a teacher. It's just when we start to notice, even on a soul level, even if it's just inside, we are rippling that out to others. So the signs that we receive from our loved ones on the other side, or from God, or from the universe, however you receive them, is for you. They're part of that greater awakening, part of the remembering that we're energy, that our life is not random, that we're shifting into this higher consciousness, and we become teachers because we are living it out loud. You are a teacher just by experiencing it. So I think it's so beautiful that we feed this feeling to others so that other people can have it in their own life, and that we feel it first and then we feed it and then we talk about it to others, just like I am. And then, we educate other people, not because we're trying to tell them what's happening. Education can just literally be by transmitting it. As many people have watched me and watched me share, it's the educating other people is literally just the soul remembrance embodying this, just embodying it. So the next time you see a rainbow or a number or a song that just is like the most beautiful song and it feels like every single word is for you, just let yourself feel it and ask yourself, what is it showing me? Because these aren't just signs, they're invitations to remember who we are, to feed that knowing, to talk about it, to educate, not from books, but from our own lived truth. This is how we break out of the old matrix. It's how we co-create the new, and we bring onto the earth what is already coming. So I hope you keep coming back to these messages. I hope that you heard something today that you needed to hear. The next podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Mike Mendoza. He is going to be talking about his own ego death and his ayahuasca journey. And, he's had a lot of science too. So there's so many things happening all the time. And I want to encourage you to share those things. And please make sure you follow this podcast, because the follows help push it out there, and share it with somebody else. That would be amazing. I love awakening together with you guys, awakening to this feel good always energy. And until next time, I hope you dream big, you see the signs, that you remember who you are deeply inside, know that you are wrapped in love. Feel good always. I love you. Till next time.